Hi.
Okay. All right. This is Deborah, and this is Jacob. Jacob's gonna have to scoot forward.
Am I?
Yeah, you're out.
Sure enough.
Okay. All right. Deborah, do you remember how we met?
You came to the property to check it out to give me a quote on it.
Exactly, a property that you had that belonged to your mom, and so I was an investor, and you were the seller. So, what happened? What was your experience with me?
It was actually like surprising. I knew I wouldn't be able to put the house on the market. There's like no way. Unfortunately, I was estranged from my mom. I know. Did you ever tell him anything?
I told him a little bit, but go ahead. And tell him.
She was my biological mom, so I never really
You're completely
had a connection with her.
Mhm.
So when my biological dad was put into the veterans home, she kind of like cut everybody out, changed the lock, changed the phone, everything. Nobody could get her to talk to him. And long story short, she ended up passing away in the house, and nobody found her for about 3.5 weeks in the month of September. The neighbors were the ones that were like, hey, there's something going on, we can smell something. That's how they found her. So Bio One, that's the one that Regal owns here, went in and cleaned everything up at the, after they removed her remains, and they cleaned everything up. You would still walk in there and it was bad. And they left the ozone machine in there for, I think he was in there for like a total of like a week. You could still smell it.
It was like in the walls.
Yeah, and literally like, impregnated, yeah.
Mhm.
And so I was sitting there like, there's no way that we're going to be able to, sell it. Because when you sell a home, you sit there and you think, okay, I've got to have everything, propped and pretty and clean and this and that. Because everybody wants to have the Instagram looking house and be perfect. But that, I know it's not realistic, but that's what everybody wants their house to be perceived. Because you don't want someone coming into your house and like, oh my God, their kitchens, oh my God, you see their trash? Oh my God, you see their underwear on the floor? Some people will sit there and they'll do that. And, I knew that I couldn't go that route because she was also a hoarder. I couldn't go that route selling it like you would a normal house, like you would your house, unless you're a hoarder. But no
I
joke.
don't think so.
I'm a collector. So when I met Esther, she was like, oh yeah, don't worry about it. It can be ugly, it can be torn up, it can be dirty, don't matter, we'll clean it, we'll do it. And I'm like, really? And that kind of got piqued my interest. We were sitting there talking and everything, and we were just walking. I mean, we were literally
And how
walking
did you get a
through
hold of
stuff.
me? How did you find me?
I think it was through Eddie, who was referred to me by Rigo.
So a referral.
Yeah, so
Okay.
referral.
Okay.
And because I was trying to remember how I met, because Lillian was like, how'd you meet her? I was like, I can't remember. Something like that. But no, it's from Rigo. He referred me to Eddie for the estate, and then he referred me to you.
Okay.
But it was like really quick, fast, and easy. He was like, literally, this is what I'll offer. Sounds good. Sign here. Okay. The house was sold, and within a month, I got the check for the house.
Yeah. So it was pretty easy.
Yeah.
And so afterwards, we kept in touch because why is it that you kept in touch, or why did you think we kept in touch?
Because I don't like females very much. I don't really click with them. Then I clicked with you, and I liked you, and I was intrigued with how, because I didn't even know this even took place. I always see those little signs we buy, houses. And I'm sitting here thinking some guy's walking with a briefcase. Okay, here's $100,000 cash. I want your house. I didn't understand how that worked. So I would sit there, I would talk to her about it here and there, and learn a little more about it and whatnot. And then we just we started clicking on different things. And I was like, okay.
So it's been what, 3 years?
Since October 2019.
Yeah. So it's 4 years. Or
almost 5.
Yeah. So it's like and it just goes back to the same thing that I was telling you. When you're talking to sellers, you just talk to them like not like your friend, but you're just gathering information. You're not passing any judgment, and you do become friends.
Yeah.
I mean, look at us. And so I've known this little one here for I don't know how many years. Like
I think 18 since probably either late 17 or I think it was in 18. That was when we ran across each other the first time.
yeah. So but anyways, and so lately, Deborah's been helping us like a bird dog. You were seeing for sale by owners. You said you wanted to help out, so You've been seeing for sale by owners. You've been calling individuals and giving me the lead, the addresses and the phone numbers, and you've been talking. So we came up with a plan and how to compensate you and so forth. So there was this one deal that she brought to us, and it was out in Odessa, and the person, the seller, was having a lot of issues with his wife passing away, his mother-in-law passing away first, and then soon after his wife passed away, and they had just given birth to a baby like 3 months earlier, so postpartum depression and they have 5 kids, and so one of the kids was bullied, and it was just a whole mess of things that he was going through. So
There's 5?
5 kids. Yeah.
I thought there
At
was
that,
4.
no, at that time, the baby was 2.5 months old, and I think the oldest is 20.
So, there was a lot of, he had a lot on his plate. And so he was in a home where he just wanted to start fresh with the kids and, forget about the past and everything. So, the house that he was in, it was pretty big, but it was a discrepancies in the square footage.
Significant.
So he was,
Oh, yeah.
they said it was like 2,900 square feet. And then, we were trying to find realtors, because that's what you do when you're talking to sellers, and you can't really get a good comp. So comparable. So you want to go ahead and talk to realtors or appraisals and stuff like that to get a better view. They know the area a little bit better. So what happened was he decided to go ahead and order an appraisal. That's like $600 to do an appraisal. So the guy went over there, he took some pictures.
That was the cheapest quote on the appraisal. The
Yeah.
primary one was because I wanted a current value and I wanted an after repair value.
Mhm.
The guy said he'd do both. This one did for $600. The other entity I talked to said they charge $900 for appraisal, and it would have to be 2 separate appraisals on it.
Yeah,
So
and
that
they
was
would
the first
charge.
one. So when we ended up going through that house there, he measured.
I keep that one guy's phone number because the other one just.
I do.
Mhm.
He seemed like he was all right. That area we struggled to try to find value because we got everything from, hey, this isn't worth anything to like this is worth like maybe 300 if you build a new house. The value he settled on was 180 if we got it into sellable condition. So there was 2 discrepancies that we had though. It's okay, so now we have a value. And now we need to figure out the construction repairs.
Mhm.
So we couldn't settle on a good value. We finally got one kind of, sort of. And then the construction repairs were rampant. We didn't know where it was going to end up being. So I'm like, because I've dealt with houses that are borderline condemned. I've flipped a couple of them.
Here in El Paso. Mhm.
And so I was willing to take on that project out in Odessa if we couldn't find a way to go ahead and move that contract to somebody who wanted it as well. So I set up and was geared up to pay cash and everything.
Mhm.
And we didn't get a chance to have somebody go through and take a look at that damn thing until this past Saturday.
Yeah.
And when they did, it was a contractor and a realtor. And they walked through and the contractor said, this is going to cost at least $100,000 to fix, probably
That's
more.
what she told me yesterday. I was like,
And the realtor and the contractor both shot back. They're like, hey, we think you would be better off raising it to the ground and using the lot and putting a trailer on it.
yeah. So I even called up, I think, Titan Factory Outlet or something like that out there. And I asked them, I was like, is that in the city limits? They're like, no, from what we're seeing, it is not in the city limits.
Mhm.
So most of the time, sorry, my hair is curling up, so it starts
You're
to
good.
It's okay.
hold.
Mhm.
So like from what we're seeing, it's not in city limits. And from what I found, it's not in city limits. But I have to confirm that with Odessa City Hall.
Mhm.
And that's what I was going to tell you yesterday when we were on the phone. They've got manufactured home dealers, outlets, whatever you want to call them, and they have repos. And they're in
Oh,
good
yeah.
shape.
Mhm.
And they're cheap.
Mhm.
What
A lot
price
cheaper.
point?
Well, that's the thing. I didn't know what. Depending on what it is.
That's something-
Like if you want something fancy schmancy that looks like a site built home with all this granite and stuff, which I think is way overdone because everybody's house looks like everybody else's house, and that's not cool. There's no uniqueness. There's no like. It's not memorable because it looks like everybody else's stuff.
Mhm.
But anyway, that's just me. But you can get like a base, and also depending on the size, if you want a single wide, double wide, what have you. If you just want to get something that has like 2 bathrooms, a kitchen, and 3 bedrooms, nothing fancy schmancy, you can probably find a repo for $30,000-$40,000.
Yeah.
And you already got the lines, you got the electric, the gas, the water. from what you were saying, the foundation's not good on that.
Yeah, they had jacks. They showed us pictures.
Was that the jacks on the foundation or the roof?
I think it was on the.
Probably it was
It's-
the minimum underneath.
Yeah, I know for
Probably
sure it was
both.
underneath.
Oh, I was
but-
thinking it was the roof and
I thought
it
it
was
was
the
too.
I
support
thought
beams.
from what the appraisal was saying, and I think what he said also, it looked like it sounded like
I think
it was on the
piers.
roof.
Yeah, but that's what it.
Was it
sounded
near
like.
the porch?
I have no idea.
No idea.
Because
So-
looking at that picture, you could tell, and that's why I like the long view. Because my ex-husband's dad, he builds fences and houses up in Dallas. He only does fence lines now, but that was one of the things that he taught us when we were looking for a house. He goes, "You want to step back across the street and look at the house and watch the roof line,
Mhm.
and that will tell you a lot." And you take it from different angles. But when I looked at it, it was kind of like dipped down a little bit, and I was like, "Okay, maybe it's a support beam. It's like maybe broken or something." But
Yeah.
I didn't. Wow, Jack.
So
Holy cow!
When we ended up having them take a look at it, they'd recommended that on it. So the price point we were at, because we got what we were at
57.
Mhm.
75 to start with, right?
Yeah, because I was pushing it out at 75, and you guys was telling you to
Yeah.
push it out at 75.
So we were at 57 and told him 58, only because we figured we might be able to give him a little bit more, help facilitate the whole deal.
Mhm.
And at that price point, I was more or less comfortable if I had to close on it up until Saturday. And so normally what would happen on that thing though is it would probably be probably a $7,000 assignment, you figured?
Yeah, I would say about 5,000 or 7,000. I would say between $5,000 and $6,000 assignment fee.
For me, I have a hard time hitting on value, but if it's something I pick up, I already know where my number needs to be, and so anything where we're from that number down, it's basically what somebody makes on an assignment. So what
So
ended up happening is
Mhm.
I was no longer comfortable closing on the thing. So Monday I called him
Mhm.
and I needed to renegotiate because now it's not a house, now it's land, and now it's land
Yeah.
we got to go ahead and tear stuff off of. So I talked with him. I wanted him at 40, but I thought I could work with it probably at 45. So we called and we talked and we agreed, and we needed to close by yesterday, cash or whatever that looks like, to get it done. And he agreed, and we executed.
Mhm.
And so I figured that I would be closing yesterday on it. Well, what had happened is during this same time frame, you had identified somebody who had an interest in the thing.
Mhm. There was a guy that called me up on Tuesday. Well, he called me up on Monday, but I didn't want to respond to him regarding, because I told him, look, what's your highest and best offer? Because I was already I was already thinking back, okay, this is $100,000 repairs, and this house is probably not even worth $100,000. And so I was like, okay, so I gave him that offer. I told him, hey, what's your highest and best? And he didn't respond. And then he said he went back at 70.
Mhm.
And so I was like, okay. So I was like, okay. He finally got it renegotiated with the seller, and I went, okay. So I said, look, let's do 74, and then he was like, no, I can't because of the way, and he kind of reiterated everything that we just said about the foundation and all the windows, and he was like,
aware.
and he was because the door was open, and he was just surprised,
Well,
like you and I.
Can you peek through the bathtub?
Well, he saw he said, I couldn't believe it. He goes, he's got 5 kids, and he was letting them running around barefoot on this floor that, he saw stuff on the floor. And I was like, yeah. And he was like, well, so anyways, that's besides the point. The point is that we ended up with, I forgot what the amount is, but anyways, he closed on it. He says cash. So he went and we closed on it. And he closed on it yesterday. So it was literally from one day to the other.
But
He was like, so I sent him the contract, and he signed the contract. And so basically today, I think maybe everybody should get funded already.
oh no, it's not funded yet.
Okay. Well,
But
they should be
I'll-
receiving the original documents today.
I'll end up probably being able to cut checks or whatnot there. Because what happened? So we had a happy little thing happen. So I'm finally at a spot now where I can start paying cash on little projects, not big ones, but little projects.
Mhm.
And I was geared up to go ahead and pay cash on it.
Mhm.
And so, I had set that whole thing up. I was planning that whole thing the whole time because it gives us better leverage. So if I need to, I can still get a loan on it. But if I have the ability to close cash, and I know what we're going to end up doing with it. Either it's a immediate sale to an end buyer, to an investor buyer, owner finance out of it. I have options, so we have a lot of stuff we can do with it if I have that ability. So I geared up to go ahead and do that. We got off the phone, we sent out the contract, we had everything stabilized, and I was set to close. And then this individual showed up after that, and he was willing to dive after it. So I figured I'd have to close on Thursday. I didn't think he'd be ready until next week.
Mhm.
So either way, I was going to have to close cash. And then it's like, oh, he might be good Friday. He might be good a little bit sooner. I don't bank on what anybody says. It's like, hey, I'm going to have to find a way
Yeah.
to do this. 'Cause
Verify. Mhm.
you'll have stuff fall apart if you have to depend on other people a lot of the time.
Yeah.
Not always, but when you need it the most, sometimes it goes sideways. So I figured he was probably going to close Friday, maybe Thursday. I set my closing for Wednesday so that we would outrun Thursday, knowing that we'd probably get pushed out Thursday, and we did,
And we did Thursday.
100%.
Yesterday.
And but because I got pushed to Thursday and he was ready to go from Friday until Thursday, we could now do a double close. So now it makes it to us. I no longer have to bring my capital there because we can use the end files funds to go ahead and fund the whole file.
Okay.
So, and I mean, the plan was for him to close on it, and then I'll find a buyer, or you help me find a buyer, so that way we can go ahead and say, as a note, somebody can say, hey, put down, $20,000-$30,000 down, and then the rest we'll put it into monthly payments. So, that was, and you make more money doing that. But we were discussing the fact that it was the amount of damage to the property, the fact that we're not there. And we would have to depend on realtors and other people to help us out. And we were having a heck of a
hyper unresponsive.
I mean, I
noticed that.
I think I spoke to maybe 30 realtors. I mean, spoke to 30 realtors, and nobody actually followed through on what they were going to do.
See, that was something else I was going to talk to you about. Because I know that you had the list of like the different areas, like in Richmond, Virginia, and you have Birmingham and whatnot. If there's a decent amount of homes, like say there's like 5 or what have you, get everything lined up and actually fly out there and be there, boots on the ground. But I don't know if it's just a West Texas thing or if it's like
Well,
Or maybe it's just that little-
nationwide.
I think what's happening there right now is they have it's one of two things usually. Either nobody cares because there's nothing going on, or there's so much going on that nobody cares.
Yeah.
So on this one, I think it's starting to pick up.
Mhm.
And so they have other stuff that they're devoting their time in that seems like it's going to be a higher return on whatever their
I
investment
was
is.
gonna,
I'm going to poke the button again.
Yeah.
But it seems like they'll get a higher return on whatever their investment is.
Okay.
And they'll spend their time with end buyers, not us, because we're kind of the dredges of society for this whole thing. And,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and that's all right. We're kind of used to it.
so
But it was around 30 agents that we spoke to
Yeah.
between everything there. And we had a grand total of 3 who were pseudo responsive. 2 of them worked together and they got back to us more or less, but not very timely. I ended up talking with somebody here because I run that meetup group, and she gave me a referral to somebody out there who's hyper responsive. And it's because, and I have to reach out to her. And if we run across anything else too, I'll thank her. And if we have anything else, we'll go to her. If it's
I actually
on
saw
Odessa.
2 properties out there in Odessa, and I was like, you know what?
Do
Well,
'em.
I'm going to kind of back off
No,
a
we
little
can do them
bit.
now.
do it.
Okay.
Do it.
Well, I didn't know that beforehand, but I was
Yeah.
just like,
We didn't
oh
really
my
know.
God,
until-
it was such a pain in the butt just for this one. I couldn't get anyone to like do anything.
Mhm.
We didn't have any dependable data up until this point, until we closed yesterday.
Mhm.
We had we now have a working proof of concept. We have a working model now.
For
Okay.
him, it's his first virtual wholesale because
Yeah.
he's always been here in El Paso. For me, I've done it, so I love virtual wholesaling or virtual.
It's you just got to pay attention for a couple other components. Like it's the same thing.
Mhm.
So for me, I evaluate everything as an investment, as a flip or a rental, and being able to go ahead and evaluate stuff that way, I can get a good idea of what we're looking for end values, even if we don't have a great end value. So long as I can get a confident value on what this thing is for rental or sale. If I know the sale, we can do a note out of it. We can do an owner finance or line up that sort of stuff too. I know how this thing produces because at the end of the day, if we're picking up rentals, we're valuing it based on income. I don't really care that much on what the actual house value is, so long as we're kind of in line, and I know what my lending products are. So we're good there. So if I can now get a dependable idea of what this thing's going to cost to repair, I know where we can be on this whole thing. So I know where I'm now comfortable at as an individual to go ahead and pick up a project. I'm conservative. So if I'm comfortable on it, just about anybody else that I know of or that we've run across actually, there's other people who might be more conservative than I am on it, but I don't know them.
No, I don't know either. I mean, yeah, I don't think so.
I'm pretty careful with them. I haven't lost money on properties. I've lost money because it was a dumbass. Like my plan wasn't good. So, but we closed.
This is what I need to learn how to do,
Yeah, and you will.
like for like the rentals, because I have a whole other community, because I'm an animal lover.
Yeah.
I used to run a rescue. I have 8 dogs, and it is hard, if not damn near impossible, to find rentals that will rent to, pet owners, especially when they have a 130-pound, dog who thinks and identifies as a Chihuahua. So that is something that I've been wanting to do is like get rental properties that are pet friendly, things like that. Because, that's going to go into a whole other story, but yeah. So I'm going to be picking your brains. So
That's all right.
Just be prepared.
I'm here to help.
Finish what you were saying.
Well,
Sorry.
we can, well, first off, look back there because we're looking for other stuff there now
Okay.
too, because I know we can work it now.
Yeah.
The second one though is because this is my first opportunity to meet you,
Mhm.
and we're here, and I didn't have to put so much capital into that thing to actually get it closed because we're able to use N-File as capital to get the thing closed. Yeah, given it's still up in the air there, but everything is signed, everything is good.
And they already got copies of that's
Yeah.
screenshots of the documents, and they sent it to title already.
I've had stuff go a little bit sideways even at this stage, but it's rare. It's very rare. So what I wanted to do is cut you a check.
Okay, I can do that.
I pre-wrote a little bit of stuff on it there, and I needed to figure out how to spell your name.
Oh, Deborah is Deborah. I'm the only one in my entire family that has the Hebrew name.
Deborah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Deborah.
Okay, last name.
Hawthorne, Hawthorne.
There.
Hopefully that will be changing soon.
Mm-hmm.
And we shall see.
So I wanted to.
What a pain in the ass to change it.
I know, but that means I'm still tied to him.
Okay.
And I want my name changed. But I have to wait till after 4 years. I have to wait 4 years. For the papers to be over with.
Okay.
That's one that you can't change your name inside.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
Let me get
you
you.
got that. Yeah, she'll get your glasses so you can take a look at it.
Yeah, I can't see.
I
I
got you.
know. You wake up one morning and you're just like, I can't see anything. And then your doctor's like, you need bifocals.
Oops.
I'm only 45. It's okay. It's
I'm
not
already.
fine.
I'm already. So.
I know. That's just, this is right here. But yeah, that's fine.
No, but
Oh, awesome.
And that's
Thank you.
more than we. Well, go ahead.
well, normally what we would have done on that whole thing is it would have normally been about probably a $5,000 or $7,000 assignment and process. But this particular one, we were able to go ahead and get a better price reduction, and it was valid too because this worked out fairly well. Because when I talked with the guy, I wasn't comfortable because I expected I'd have to pick it up.
Mhm.
And we closed this whole thing out, and at the same time, this individual over here happened to line up, and we happened to be able to do everything at the same time, and so everything lined up just about perfect. Now, it didn't line up early on because you probably heard about some of the hiccups we had, and you probably
Oh,
had your own.
yeah.
But
I honestly thought that we were going to have to just pull everything.
oh, I thought it was going to die.
Oh, my God.
2 or 3 times I tried to get the guy funds there because I had to go ahead and wire funds to him earlier on so that he could move. So I had to cut him like $5,000, and that
Yeah,
was
I heard the kids were like ecstatic about
The new place that they went into.
good.
So I was like, okay, cool.
Mhm.
And now what's going on with the property? And that's when everything started coming out with the jacks and the this. I was like, oh, what did we do? Oh
No,
my
it's
God.
like you never know until
Yeah.
you start doing your due diligence.
Well,
Yeah.
I wanted to work with him and help him out, and I felt bad that we weren't able to get that fund sooner, and that getting funds to them earlier like that is highly, 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 highly unusual. I've run across, I don't think I've run across anybody else who's done that. I've done it twice now. I did it on a land deal, in order to go ahead and push through to settle title, and I did it here because I knew he needed funds, and I knew we could try to help him. And we
Yeah.
lucked out that everything panned out, but that was your piece out of that whole
Mhm.
thing.
Well, I greatly appreciate that. I wasn't expecting it to be that much, honestly, but I greatly appreciate it.
You're
So,
welcome. Yeah.
Well, that's why we kind of wanted to do that and get you a check, and it.
that means they all get little cheeseburgers, and Lola gets a little bite.
Yeah. Mhm.
I preface that they won't always be like that, and they won't always work out quite like that. But this one did,
Mhm.
and I'm happy it did.
That was
Yeah.
the surprise I wanted to give you.
Oh, well, thank you.
Mhm.
She's like, I got a surprise for you. I'm sitting here like, okay, you got me a husband that's taller than me that I'm not going to be able to bench press or anything. Yay! And he's not a Dallas Cowboy fan? Yeah.
Mhm. So, for someone that's been helping us call people, get individuals that are for sale by owners. So, yeah.
I hope that helps, and I hope that also lets you know too that the stuff that you're doing, even though sometimes it feels like we spin our wheels, because I know I did for a long time. Door knocking, pre-foreclosures, calls, for sale by owners, and you know the value's there. You know you're going to get somewhere with it eventually, or you're pretty sure. But sometimes it's a little hard to stay the course. And so
Yeah.
the first time you're able to go ahead, and I'm assuming this is the first check you've
Yeah.
got. Yeah. So the first check is maybe the best check that I think I've ever gotten. Like, it's not the biggest by any stretch, but it's the best because it helps.
You
Instill.
see what you're putting in, and it's like, okay, this does actually work. This does happen.
I can
And
bring
it's not-
value. I can bring value to somebody. And I got paid by putting in time and effort here, and I didn't have to work a regular day job to do this. I was able to do something that somebody saw enough value in that they voluntarily wanted to cut me a check so that I keep doing what I'm doing because they see value in it.
Mhm.
No, I appreciate it. I really, really do.
No, and I appreciate what you've done. All the effort that you've been doing.
Well, hopefully, it's just a matter of getting people to step out of their comfort zone. Because, like, when it comes to like foreclosures, it's an embarrassment. Like when my ex and I, we actually, we're getting ready to lose the house to foreclosure. It's embarrassing. Well, for us, it was like, oh my God, we're supposed to have our stuff together. We're adults, and now we're, and it's not like, we went out and spent our money willy nilly on, baseball cards or, getting our nails done or whatever. It was just situational to where it just kind of creeps up, and you're just like, oh crap, now what do we do? And there's a lot of self blame and a lot of arguing, and they don't want to admit it. They don't want to sit there and think, okay, if I just don't think about it, it's not going to happen. It's not going to, it's not real to them. And so, and then when people grow, when you're growing up, you see, how you sell houses on TV and the movies and things like that. And then when you buy your house, it's kind of like that. So when we come in and say, hey, look, we'll pay cash. It's not going to be near as much as what you think you're going to get when you buy, sell your house with a realtor. But yes, your profit will be this much. However, after all the fees and the commissions and everything else, it's going to be this much. And that's probably about, what you're going to get with us too, unless it's, depending on the deal. But people don't realize that that's an actual option and it's not a scam or, what have you, because it's.
And what I told that seller in Odessa, I told him, look, you will not find any realtors that will pay you the money like Jacob did to front you some money before it closes.
Oh, hell no.
So
Yeah.
I
Well,
said,
there's a damn good reason.
and then there's exactly, and I explained that to him, and I said, not only that, there's other realtors won't pay for taking over payments and paying back what is owed on the property. So if you're going through foreclosure, so we have strategies and how to not fix their credit, but maintain their credit so that it doesn't go to the toilet, but go on to a different. And we've actually helped individuals go into an apartment or house or something like that.
Find them
Meanwhile,
somewhere.
yeah. So it's not like and most realtors. I mean, realtors are great and everything, but there's certain things that
They're
they
limited.
can't. Yeah, they can and cannot do.
Yeah.
I had a pre-foreclosure. That was my very first rental property. And because we all used to, it was all of us working together. We all worked as part of a group where a guy was kind of teaching us the ropes on this. So we were on this list and out there leaving letters and trying to have conversations with people. And God, it's scary. And because you figure somebody's going to shoot you at the door. And given, there's one or two who might. Usually, though, is in my experience, and I'm glad that you brought it up too, most of the time people are just embarrassed. they don't really know what to do. They don't want anybody to know, and because they don't want anybody to know, they don't know to reach out for help. So on this particular one, he talked with the woman there, and she'd gotten behind. Her mom had died. She was at that time in her late 50s or early 60s, and had just been having hell. And we couldn't find anybody to pick up the pre-foreclosure at that time, because pre-foreclosures are hard. Like, if you've, if you were in that process there's a timeline.
Yeah.
And if it went from like, hey, I'm behind, to like, oh, I got that notice of trustee sale, like, they said they're taking it, and they gave me a date, and they said that there was an amount. I may not know the amount, but I have to get it. Like, this thing is not ours after this date. So on that particular one, we couldn't find anybody who wanted to take the project. And at the time, I wasn't that experienced in understanding what these deals were. I didn't have capital really to dive after some of this stuff. Not that I have a massive amount now, but I know how to use it better.
Yeah.
And 3 days before this thing was getting foreclosed on, we sat down with her. We signed a contract, and it was going to be a takeover payments. So I caught up payments 3 days prior. And I think 3 days prior being, I think that Saturday when it was going up on Tuesday. Caught up payments, that whole thing. And I kicked her out. And I replaced the roof, and I fixed the inside of the house with some of the proceeds from the roof. And then I asked her if she wanted to rent it back, because she'd been living there for 30 years. And she said yeah. And she has been renting from me since. She treats me as like a surrogate grandson. And I would tell people not to do that particular situation, because there's a lot of liability that can happen. And I would tell you that it has worked out well for me, but for safety's sake, I'd advise people not to.
Mm-hmm.
And I tell people to do a lot of things that I've done because I know my exposure, but I also knew that I really wanted to help her.
Yeah.
On that particular one, actually, I was looking at selling it or doing a refinance on it. And I told them about a week ago that I was going to sell it. And she's getting older, and she's having some issues in and out of the hospital. And we offered it for sale to her and her daughter, and I had a pretty good idea that they couldn't afford it. And what her daughter said is, she goes, we can't afford to pick this thing up. And I rent on that thing. It wasn't renting for what I needed to be based on the property tax hikes.
Yes.
So I'm like, this thing doesn't make sense as a rental anymore. Which she fired back, and she goes, hey, could you rent this thing to us for, I think right now it would probably be $200 or $300 above market value. And she goes, if so, we consider renting it from you there, because she needs somebody to take care of her. So they're looking at moving in. And I go, yeah, if you want to do that, I'm open to it. I could use the capital right now for some stuff now to grow, but I'd like it to make sense of a rental. If you can help me make sense of it as a rental there, I'll go ahead and run with that. So it's been like this. That first investment has just been like this interesting role, and it was foundational from a learning standpoint, understanding pre-foreclosures, understanding how to work with people, understanding this whole thing. And what I like is running across people and starting those very first ones with those hard conversations and trying to find a way to help people.
Yeah.
So I need to go, but what time is it? Yeah, I need to go. But we wanted to show you that. It's a little bit more than we expected, but
Definitely, which is always a pleasant surprise. So.
yeah. But if
I
we
really
keep going,
appreciate that.
keep going. It'll be a little roller coaster here.
Well, I've got notebooks all over my desk with different notes and stuff. I have ADHD, just so you know. And yes, I do take medication, but it flirts with it, but doesn't really do a lot. So if you walked into my room where all my desk is, you'd be like, what the hell? There's
Well,
like
just as long
notebooks
as you
and papers and
understand.
pens and everything
But
else.
just as long as you understand
I have my
where you gotta
stuff.
go.
So
Yeah.
we can get this stuff kicked out. And
Oh yeah.